welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm going to be making a swatch for my Copic markers. I saw someone do this with deer, so I thought it was a good idea to have some of your stamps swatch with different colors, so then when you go to color your images in the future, you'll know which combinations you like. So I have these stamps here from Lawn Fawn, and it's their wolf one. I don't know which one it is, but I'll list it below what it's called. So I'm going to just stamp a couple of wolves, and then I'll color them in some grays to compare those colors. Now, when you're stamping for alcohol markers, you want to make sure you're using alcohol-friendly ink. So these are just a couple options. You can use Lawn Fawn, their jet black ink. They also have some colors. The one I have is the Crunchy Leaf, and I'll be using that in a little bit. And here's another black option you can have is Memento Tuxedo Black. And I think there are probably other ones out there. So I'm going to start with just taking one of my images. And the reason I want to do this is because a lot of times you'll color something, you'll like it, but then you come back and you don't remember, what color combination did I use before? Or maybe you want a different look than you did before. So I am just going to stamp 3 different wolves on here. And this is actually going to be my first swatch card because I've never done this before. Good thing paper has 2 sides. I'm stamping 3 wolves in black because I want to do 3 wolves each with a different set of gray markers so we can compare the differences. And also I'll be using 2 of the brown because I have some earth colors I want to use, because sometimes we kind of think of wolves as being more black, but sometimes there's some that are white, and we actually have wolves in the United States that are called red wolves, but those are the most endangered wolves in the United States, and so there's not as many of them, and they tend to live more in the eastern side of the U.S., although they're mostly extinct, except in a few places where they did try to reintroduce them. So they're not extinct altogether, but in the wild. But those are more of a reddish brown and tend to be smaller than the gray wolves. I'm going to be keeping my swatch card in my book that I'm making for all of my extra die cuts. So usually when I have a set like this and I want to make a whole bunch at one time because maybe I'm making a sing card, then I'll just cut a whole bunch because I don't know how many I'm going to use. Or I also have a scan and cut, so sometimes if I'm using that, I'll just cut out a whole page of images and save those for later use. Most of the markers I have are Copic sketch markers, and they come with that brush nib. And then on this side, it would come with a broad nib, but I've been replacing those with the really small nib. I think it's called a bullet nib, which I need on these kind of small images like I'm coloring today. Now, if you get the original, they're like this one. They have a broad nib, and then the other side is a small nib. So if you want the brush nib, you can also purchase a brush nib for the original markers. Now, in recent years, there have been some quality issues with Copic markers, so I wanted to discuss this. So I have a few markers that have completely gone bone dry, and it doesn't matter if you put ink on them. They won't work. So if you notice how I'm pulling on this broad nib, and it comes off really loose, and the other side does not. So after I did some research, someone had said that if the lid comes off easy, that's when there's a defect. So I went through my markers, and the 3 that were not working, that was exactly the case. And for some reason, they were always on the broad tip side. So I don't know if that's always the case. So if you buy a marker, a Copic marker, and you're buying them at the store, first of all, let the store let you test them and make sure they are not dried out and that they work. But also check the lids. And if the lids come off really easy, don't buy that marker. Now, I noticed this quite a bit of time after I bought the markers, so I didn't feel like I could return them. So check your markers right after you buy them, especially if you buy them online. So hopefully they'll let you return those. Now, one of the great things about Copic markers is you can buy refill ink for them. So if your marker does dry out because you use it a lot, you can get a refill and it will refill your markers several times. So far, I've only re-inked my BG10. That's the only one that dried out because I use it all the time. So that makes it pretty eco-friendly. On this swatch card, I'm going to be swatching warm gray, cool gray, and neutral. There's also toner gray, but I don't have those. I started with the W's, and just whenever Hobby Lobby had their clearance on Copics, that's when I got the cool grays and the neutral grays. So you could just start with just one, and the grays, I think they all go from like W0 all the way through W9. So there's a bunch of numbers. You don't need to get that many of any one particular color like this. So as you can see, I'm doing like every other color, and that's how I bought them. Now, since I had to get the ones on clearance, I don't have the same corresponding numbers with the cool gray and the neutral gray as I do with the warm grays. When I color, I like to go with the darkest color first, and normally I'll use 3 colors with an area. On these wolves, they're pretty tiny, so I don't always do 3 different colors in each section. But the darker color I'll put where I think there's going to be a shadow or where it's darker. So generally at the bottom of the animal in this case, or like under their chin, or in the cracks of their joints, wherever that might be. Those are where I'm going to start with the darker color, and then I'll move up. So when you start blending, usually you'll have to go over it 2 or 3 times to get a good blend. But I found with the grays, you don't usually have to blend as much. They're really easy to blend. So grays are a really good one to start with as a new beginner in Copic coloring. Now, if you don't know about the shadows, don't really worry about it, because I've always liked to color with crayons, and I'm not really an expert colorer. I just do it for fun. So if you don't know about where the shadows are going to be, don't worry about it. Just have fun and color it however you want to. Now, some people like to do lightest color to darkest, but do whatever you're comfortable with. And on these type of animals, the other thing I like to do is do my lighter shades around the face. So I'm not going to go as dark there, because otherwise you kind of cover up the facial expressions. And the other thing a lot of people like to do is put a little blush on the animals just to make it look cuter. But since I'm doing this more to be able to compare the different grays, I thought I wanted to just keep it with either brown or gray. Now this is my first swatch card that I've done for blending, but I do have a Copic book that I bought when I first got my Copics, where you could swatch out the colors as you got them, and it has it divided by colors. Sometimes you can do a printout also online. I've seen some hexagon charts and things like that you can color in, and that's a good way to keep track of what markers you have. And also you can see which colors might blend well. But what I found out as I was doing this swatch is I really could see the difference in the grays with the wolves more than I can if I would look in my book, or if I'm looking at the dots that I did here. It comes very apparent as what the difference between warm gray, neutral, and cool gray is. So when I get this done, it kind of looks more bluish on the cool gray. And as far as the type of cards I like, if I was just going to buy, I would get either the warm or the neutral, depending on what color schemes you probably would go with. Now you'll notice as I'm doing these that the brush marker is harder to color with, especially for me, because I'm not very good at eye-hand coordination. So it's easier for me to color with the really small nib than it is the brush. But if you're going to go with a slightly larger image, then the brush is better. So that's why I'm replacing all my broad nibs, because I'm never going to use those. I don't color anything that's big. Everything I color is a small stamped image. Now I'm going to move on to my earth tones, which are your browns, and I'm doing 2 that are kind of comparable, because if you look at the last numbers, those are the numbers that tell you how light or dark it'll be. So on both of these sets that I'm doing, I have a 1, 3, 5, and 7. So these will be very comparable. And you can see how one is a little bit more reddish brown color than the other. And I also use that brown color for my stamping. Some people like to use that color because it's what we call no line coloring, or it looks like there's no line. You'll see on my last wolf that I do, it blends in quite a bit. In fact, I really didn't like how that one looked too much, so then off screen at the end I did another black stamp and did those colors once again, and I liked it better that way. So this will also help on your swatch so you can see how you like it best, even with the stamping color. Now, a reason you might want to go with a colored ink color when you stamp is because maybe you're going to try no line coloring, or perhaps you're doing a certain color scheme and black would just be too stark. So it just really depends what look you want. I didn't like my bottom one that I did on screen just because I thought his facial features didn't show up as well, and I want to be able to see his face better. So that's why I liked it better when I stamped it in black. At the end of the video, I'm going to put a picture of a card that I made a few months ago, and it features the same stamp set, just to give you an idea of how these wolves look on a card. Now, I don't remember if I used any of these combinations. I used an earth color, but I don't know which combination I used, which is why I'm making a swatch card. I am thinking about doing a hop in the future. Hopefully, I can get my subscribership up to 500, and if so, I want to celebrate, and my idea is to do a hop called Cute Critters and Copics. So I'd be interested if anyone else would be interested in doing such a hop by using whatever cute critter stamps you have in your Copic markers, or it could be other alcohol ink markers. I know some other card makers like using other types of alcohol markers, but have a hop with that theme, and I will be giving away prizes. I think some Copics and either Lawn Fawn stamps or Hello Bluebird stamps is what I'm thinking about, or possibly a gift card. But I have to get to 500 subscribers first, so hopefully everyone that is watching this video will give it a like, and please subscribe so I can get my channel membership up and active. That helps support my channel. And for those of you who are already subscribers, I want to thank you so much for your continued support. And just let me know what you think about that hop. Would you be interested in watching such a hop or participating in such a hop? Because I will want some fellow card makers hopping along and making some videos for us all to get inspiration of making our cute critter cards. In the description below, I'll put a list of all the products that I used in this video, as well as my recommendation of purchasing Copics is scrapbookpal.com. That's where I mostly get all of mine, except for those ones that were on clearance at Hobby Lobby, because that seems to be the place that has the best price. There are a few other places, and I think if you go on any card group on Facebook, people can give you recommendations of where they get them, especially if you're not in the United States, because I'm not really familiar with stores that would ship reasonably to you that would be less expensive. Some of the links in the description below will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that those links generate, and that helps support my channel. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And again, I like to ask you to please subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And thank you so much to everyone who continues to visit my channel and are subscribers. Thank you, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.